so that we'll have this recorded for later usage. So, because there might be some people that are interested in the question and answer part, but they aren't available because, it is Friday and, we're across the country. So it's later in some areas. I'm in Calgary, so it's only 4:00. Yeah, this was fun looking for actual books. I'm kind of old school, I guess. I did a lot of researching online for my university program and my music degree, and also for my yoga therapy certification because, I had to, but I really prefer books. And so I use a lot of books, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm just going to share the ones that are kind of my most favorite, and then you guys can pop in and say anything you want in the chat if you have a comment or a question. And then if you look of what's in the chat already, these are just, it's kind of squished it all together, which is too bad, but it's the title of the book, the author of the book, the year it was published, and the publisher. So the first one is Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. This is a little bit of an older book. This is written by Christine Northrup. She's one of my favorite weird American doctors. And it doesn't actually have a lot about menopause and perimenopause in it, but it has a lot about women's health issues just in general. And it's a great source. I've referenced this so many times over the years when I get a new diagnosis or something weird pops up and I'm not sure what it is. Then I can look in here, about endometriosis, and she'll talk all about the Western mindset of endometriosis and also some of the Eastern philosophy, energy medicine, things that you can do, practical things you could try. I love it. I use this book all the time. Her take on things is pretty alternative, just to warn you. But if you're having trouble understanding something, it really helps to read her description because she gets into it really deeply. So that's my resource. I use that all the time. And then here is another one by the same author. I like the title, Goddesses Never Age. I don't know if that's exactly true, but, and she has another one specifically on healthy sexuality, and I didn't buy the book. I borrowed it from the library, and I can't remember what it's called. But that one was really good if you're having any kind of sexual dysfunction, just for, clarity around what you can do with your mental health and how you're looking at it. And she made a really good point when I was reading the book about human sexuality that she wrote. It's like mature sexuality or sexual. Anyway, I'll look it up and I'll add it in. I'll find the title. But she said of anatomy. So I have anatomy and physiology and pathologies at the university level. She said, of all of the organ systems that mammals have, we're the only creature on the planet that has the clitoris, which its only purpose is sexual pleasure. It doesn't have any other purpose. And since you have that, this must mean biologically, all of our organs serve a function. So biological pleasure in the body must be important for our survival, or we wouldn't have that. And that was really interesting to read. I hadn't thought about that before, but it makes sense. This one was given to me. It's Jen Gunther. This one gets mentioned quite a lot in the group, and it's good. The thing I don't like about it, and I understand why she did this, she's very discouraging about using supplements. And the reason she's done that is there's not enough studies to really know 100% sure what is safe to take with what other medication. So, like, for example, I know a lot of us will be put on cholesterol medication and beta blockers at this point in our lives for prevention of heart disease. And those ones can interact with adaptogens, certain adaptogens that they have looked into, like ashwagandha. So in that case, it would not necessarily be safe. However, my take on it is I think it's a good idea to try, as long as you get some doctor's information, like you can ask your doctor. I have a doctor that's pretty good about that, and ask about supplements and see what they say. And I'm not on any heart medication. I'm only on progesterone, 2 different kinds, and the antidepressant. That's it. So I don't have to really worry about drug interactions. But just like when she was talking about some of the natural sources, it was just, I found it so negative that I didn't really enjoy the book, because I'm all about the alternative stuff. However, if you need to understand what's happening, her explanation is very good, and all of her medical take on what's happening and what you could take and what might work for you is bang on. Very good information. So it is a good resource to have available or to borrow from the library. Or, that one was on sale at Winners. This one is an older book, The Hormone Cure. This is Sarah Gottfried. I don't know if you guys have followed her online. She's on Instagram, and she's really weird. Oh, you love that book. Menopausing. I have not heard of that one, but that's a really good one, because I have the little summary that I did is a sheet of different books. So yeah, menopausing. That's a great title. That's the other thing. Sometimes the titles are like, what? Whereas like this one, The Hormone Cure, Sarah got a little bit weirder the older she got. She got weirder and weirder. And not in a bad way, but just keep that in mind, right? Like, not all of us have to go out and start monitoring our blood sugar. We're not all going to become insulin resistant, or have to worry about that. But she's really smart, and I like this one because it has a quiz. It has a quiz that's based on your symptoms, so you don't have to have a diagnosis to work with this book. And you can look and see whether you're having high cortisol or low cortisol based on your symptoms. And then you can start evaluating yourself and treating yourself with what might work for you just from the quiz. So I thought that was really valuable. And then it helped me to get a lot of clarity about what was going on for me. And she explains things like PCOS and what it is, and, infertility, and how these things might relate to your menopause or perimenopause. She talks a lot about the natural remedies. She's really kind of more my style about the natural remedies. And she talks about yoga a lot because, as I said before, it's one of the things that has been proven again and again to help us, particularly in this particular journey, because it raises the good feel hormones and it lowers the stressed out hormones. So your brain will work a little bit better. And she's a big fan of humming. She talks about humming a lot because humming stimulates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a big nerve that is in the cranium. It's in the back of your skull, and it runs all the way down your spine into your bowels, and it is related to your digestion. And it's a simple way to calm the nervous system just by humming, which, I like the simple stuff, right? Let's keep it as simple as possible. And so it doesn't matter what you hum. Just spend some time humming if you start to feel stressed out or if you're having heart palpitations. And then this one, Next Level. This is specifically about perimenopause and menopause and exercise. Have you heard of this one, Stephanie? This is a good one. I can't even remember where I heard of this one, but no, you haven't heard of this one. They go through and painstakingly. This one is the best description I've ever read of what's happening in perimenopause.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel lost. I felt like I really got a lot of clarity around what was happening, really simple language. And they go over the symptoms and what might happen. And then they have really specific case studies of people who've been working out and they're having certain issues. And they talk about the adaptogens and what you could take and how it works and what it might interact with. It's like extremely thorough. Okay. So, you could have a look in here and say, okay, I like this part. I maybe try this, and why dynamic movement and why weight training is ideal for us, and even like samples of the exercises. Like, we're not all going to have the giant weights, but a lot of us do some of the simple stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And, like the skier, right? I was like, what is up with the skier? Why do they want me to run back and forth and touch the floor? And they actually explain what dynamic movements are doing for you, like skipping and jumping and all that kind of stuff. And it's so easy to read. This one is the only one that I was like not falling asleep and bored halfway through.
I will try.
It's really good.
This is Erica. I've actually read that book from beginning to end. Yeah, The Next Level. And I found it really, really good. Lots of great information. I had to sit down and take notes because there was so much good information in there.
Yeah, it's so much good information. And like when I started to have heart palpitations again after my mother-in-law died because of stress. And I was like, I know in one of my books, they talk specifically about a really mild, gentle adaptogen that's specifically good for heart palpitations. And I found it in that book, Next Level. And it's called, now I can't remember the name, but I've been using
ashwagandha.
No, that's the next step. Their recommendation is start with holy basil. Start with holy basil because it's the mildest of the adaptogens and see if that's enough. And then if it's not quite enough, then add in the ashwagandha. And so that's interesting. And I'd never tried holy basil before, but it actually worked. It worked really well. And it's a part of Ayurvedic, which is part of yoga. And it's a heart tonic. It's a digestive aid. And it's also really helpful for sleep. But it's the mildest one of the adaptogens. So it's a good place to start if you wanted to start trying with the adaptogens to see if they help, if you're having those kind of symptoms. And then I have a few different, just go-to like books that I use all the time. We have so much like body pain, foot pain. I don't know if you guys have had like plantar fasciitis. It's extremely common at this point. I don't know why, but it's what happens. And this book is really, really simple. And I like how she has the little pictures. So if you're wondering what the exercise is, it's all straight ahead and it's good for bunions, hammer toe, plantar fasciitis, and poor posture and alignment. So, this works. This stuff works really, really well. I've used this book a lot and I'll reference it if I kind of simplify everything anyway. So the long story short is move everything, move all of the little tiny joints and muscles in your feet every day. Otherwise we get stiff and sore. And that's kind of, just part of what happens in perimenopause and menopause. And then this little book, Yoga for Grief. I use this one all the time. And, you might think, well, what does grief have to do with it? But there is a grieving process that's involved when you're letting go of fertility and acknowledging that that's something that is behind you, that there won't be another baby. And I didn't even want another baby. My thing was, 2 kids in my 20s, and that was my plan. My plan was that I would be free in my 40s and 50s. But I still had that like, oh, yeah, there won't be another baby. And I had to allow myself to go through that grieving process. And part of that letting go of that past gets you into saying hello to your future as a wise woman. And I've just used this book so much, and it has so many nice, easy practices. And it's a really good description of yoga as far as what we were talking about being much more than the physical postures that we think is yoga. She explains the eight level path and chakras and energy. And her story is pretty sad. She lost a baby, and that's how she got into dealing with the grief through yoga. And this is another really simple yoga book. This is a Yoga Nidra book. This kind of introduces you to the idea of Yoga Nidra, which is basically a guided nap. So you get yourself all cozy, comfy, and it comes with a recording. So for probably a year, I worked with just the recordings. This is Richard Mueller. He was, one of my teachers, and one of my teachers, Allie Boothroyd, her teacher was this Richard Mueller as well. And he has a PhD. So he's done us all a big favor in the yoga world by getting funding and doing those tests on the kids that came up with that like physiological sigh. That's from him. And it works. It works to calm the body system down. And he's proved a lot of the things that the yogis knew about how practice can look and how beneficial it is. So, and I just found it really nice and easy to read. It's not big, but it explained what was going on because I loved Yoga Nidra right away. But, you don't really necessarily know about what you're doing when you're doing a practice and someone's just guiding you through. It's like a guided meditation, but instead of sitting up and trying to sit tall and keep your spine straight, you're allowed to lay down and get all comfy cozy with your blankets and even fall asleep. And if you fall asleep, it's just considered your body doing what it needs to do. But what's happened for me in working with Yoga Nidra a lot over the last 6 months, finishing this training that I just did, is I've corrected the sleep deficit. So I no longer have a sleep deficit. I go to bed, I sleep, I wake up, I feel like I've slept, and I have pretty good energy most days. And then this one I just wanted to share because I love the pictures in this one. Renew and restore. So this is kind of where I started going as soon as I did my yoga teacher training. I did yoga teacher training in Ashtanga, which is very active physical practice. And pretty much right away I was like, I can see its purpose and it's definitely good, but I would rather exercise and have that in my mind. I'm exercising and then do yoga in a way that's much more restorative. So that's an example of what restorative yoga looks like. And that would be a posture that might be suitable for doing a Yoga Nidra in, where you've got a pillow over your eyes and a little blanket rolled up underneath your knees and your arms are out comfortably at your side and you're just relaxing. I have heard of Unlock Your Menopause Type. I haven't read that one, but that one sounded pretty exciting too. Do you have that one, Erica?
Yep, I do.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
I heard about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess throughout the years, I guess she's been treating menopause exclusively for 10 years now. And she's come to realize that there were certain patterns of the women that she was treating. And so she's kind of like put the women in like, I think it's 6 different types. And there's a questionnaire that you can kind of answer the question to find out what your type is. And then you can go directly to that chapter and then it'll talk about what to do about it. And she also has a section at the end to talk about all kinds of different symptoms separately and how to address those with either hormone or non-hormonal ways and lifestyle changes. So it's really great and practical.
Yeah, I love it whenever there's anything like simple that we can add in or that we can try that's really easy that we don't have to, run around or spend a lot of money on. And I think that being able to work with the symptoms to help alleviate the discomfort is really important, especially if you're, like the brain fog. That one was the worst for me. I went from being like always in a class and learning stuff to feeling like, oh, maybe I can't do that anymore. And then using Lion's Mane helped me. And then more fixing my sleep made a huge difference too. But I'm really curious about that. I'll have to check out that Dr. Heather Hirsch for sure. And then I have my pathologies book. So you see how I was like all these. Yeah, that's me. That's kind of how when I'm getting into something. And then, some of it's pretty gruesome, but this is kind of like the beginning pathologies where every nurse practitioner, every doctor would have taken this kind of course or level of course. And just to give you a perspective of how much training the average practitioner has, menopause is mentioned once in the chapter on the female reproductive system. And it's in menstruation. And all it says is you may have troubling symptoms such as hot flashes. That's it. So if your doctor is like, oh, well, you're not having hot flashes, so it's not menopause, that is partially why. It's just lack of training, and it's not really, it's quite involved as we've found out going through it. There's a lot of different elements that can be contributing to what you're going through. So yeah, we need more than like a couple of sentences, but that's the amount of training that most practitioners are getting. And that's why they may be reluctant to treat or to really get into what might be happening for you beyond just ruling out, is there something serious going on that needs to be treated because you have a disease that could be life-threatening? Once they establish that there's nothing like that going on, you're often just sort of dismissed, like, all right, well, off you go. There's nothing to be seen here. And that's the part where we need, somewhere to go with the next step. And that's what I found when I started looking through the government websites. Like Alberta Health Services does have a little blurb about perimenopause on the website, and it's pretty good. It's pretty informative. It's accurate. But it doesn't leave you with anything to do. It doesn't say, if you think this could be you, maybe go check with the nurse at your doctor's office, or, there's just nothing. There's nowhere to go for next steps. And that I don't think is right, to just leave women like, well, you're not in danger of dying right now, but if you've been having a period for 3 weeks, like, how can they just leave us like that? And yet, I hear from women all the time where they've been bleeding heavily for a couple of years before they get any kind of treatment. And sure enough, they do have fibroids and they need a hysterectomy. So maybe they wouldn't have if they'd gotten taken seriously and learned some stuff in the first place before it got that bad. But I'm worried for women in general being left to that point where they're really lost and really sick and can't work anymore. And so I'm going to add these titles into my little spreadsheet, and then you guys can ask me if you have any questions about anything at all. And if you don't, we can just talk. We can just chat too. And I'm going to make this list. I just sent, I'm sharing this with I'm so lucky. I have a volunteer who's helping me to build the website right now. So I'm sharing this resource with her, and I'm hoping that she's going to help me find a spot for it on the website so that people can find, like the books that we like and everything all in one spot, and get more help that way. Doctors now in menopause. Probably, yeah, you know what? I think that might be one of the reasons why I've always gotten better care from women. 10 years ago was so different and rather negative. Yeah, I think that as women experience it themselves, that's when they become more sympathetic and learn more about what we're living through, because it's so convoluted and hard to understand unless you've actually gone through it. I was just talking to someone today about trying to explain it to your husband, like, good luck, and then hoping that he's going to get that you actually need more help or be sympathetic is another, like, well, I mean, some guys, mine is pretty sympathetic, but it took him a while to understand that I wasn't doing this on purpose, right? Like, he, just like me, thought I would eventually just stop having a period and that would be wonderful. And, I don't know if anybody really gets that experience. So for the Unlock Your Menopause Type, do you know what year that was written? Just because I'd like to put the year.
Yes, so I think it just came out in June this year, 2023.
Oh, it's nice and new then.
Yes.
I published that one. Do you know who published?
Um,
Does it say on the back?
no.
It's somewhere in there. It doesn't really matter, right? Because a lot of times people are going to plunk this into Amazon or, whatever their favorite book store is and find it that way.
Could it be St. Martin's Essentials?
Yeah, could be. We'll go with that. I'm really glad that there's more information now and more practitioners talking about this. I just wish there was more Canadian sources in general online. And I don't know why the Canadian doctors aren't talking about it, but I think it might have to do with the just the political nature of things and maybe some, insurance issues, because they don't want to be seen as giving medical advice. And what about menopausing? Do you know when that was published, Stephanie?
I think it's 2022.
Oh, that's really good too. It's really good too. And I borrowed another one from the library recently that I didn't get through because I had to return it. That was really good. It was written by an author who is a reporter and started going through her own menopause journey and then decided to write a whole book about it. And hers was really, really well balanced. I think it was called Hot and Bothered. Have any of you guys read that one? It was really new. Just see if I can find it. I didn't buy it. I just took advantage of the borrow from the library. And I
haven't read the book, but I'm pretty sure I'm listening to her on a podcast.
Oh yeah?
And I can't think of who it is at the moment.
Yeah. It was a really good book. Yeah, here we go. Hot and Bothered.
Oh, Amanda Thebe, maybe?
It's Janice Dunn.
Janice Dunn.
Bothered, what no one tells you about menopause and how to feel like yourself again. Jancy Dunn. Anyway, I'm going to add this one in because it was really good, even though I didn't finish it. It's still potentially a really good resource, right? For anybody who's just starting and trying to educate themselves. Because I remember going to the library and really not being able to find much at all. It's a very long title. Yeah, she was good. She was talking about some of the things. She talked about Facebook and she talked about the power of social media and groups and working with other people in a way that I hadn't seen before. It was really good. I'll just see if I can find out when it was published too, so I can add that in there. Does it say? It has a free preview. Let's see if it tells you. Whitman and Sons. So this is 2023. So yeah, this is hot off the presses here. Because newer sources are, just a little bit more maybe accurate. It's by Putnam, whatever that is, a division of Random House, Penguin. Putnam. Anybody else think of anything else that they've read that they think every woman should know? Because I'll look it up if you don't have a copy of it. And we'll add it in there.
Do you want me to put in the chat maybe some podcasts that I think are good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Because I know there's a lot of women who just love learning that way. They want to listen. So I'm just looking up Christine Northrup's website to see if there is any. She has a lot of stuff about women's health and sexuality. But I'm not seeing the book that I borrowed from the library. It was really good, though. She's got a lot of different. Oh, she's got a podcast, too.
I had, here in Quebec, we have this well-known personality who did a four telly series about menopause. And she's the one that, she's part of the people that woke me up about this. It was really good. So and it's available on internet, YouTube type of thing, I would imagine. It was Le Tour Minot. It's in French.
If you put that one in the chat.
Okay.
Have because I'm English speaking, but yeah, in French, it's still good. Like a lot of us have enough French that I can understand lectures in French pretty well,
Was that with Véronique?
Yes, with Véronique Cloutier.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was good.
It starts out by her husband saying, I think we almost left each other 3 or 4 times. That's how it starts out. So, it was pretty good.
Yeah. And you have to really work at finding your way back together, I think.
Yeah.
As a couple, because you do change your interests or your tolerances or, what you are going to put up with changes. And It's not easy because the guy is not changing with you necessarily, right? They go through their own changes.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll say that to women when they're like, he doesn't understand. I can't get him to understand. What can I do? And mine the tipping point was when I said, there's something called andropause.
Yeah.
Men go through this too. So he went and started actually looking up andropause. And then he was like, that's interesting. You can't read about andropause without reading about menopause.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he became quite informed about it at that point. You Are Not Broken by Kelly Casperson. Now, I'm familiar with that name. I think maybe she's on Instagram too, hey?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she's on the social media on different platforms.
Yeah, and Louise Newson, she's really good. She's in the UK. That's the founder of the Balance app.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, current studies and very fun to listen to. That makes a big difference. Awesome.
Oh, Dr. Heather Hirsch.
Yeah, Dr. Heather Hirsch. Yeah, I think that's really important. And then also the idea that I like stuff that's a little bit more concise. Like some of the podcasts I've listened to are so long that you can't really budget your time around them. So I like it if they're a little bit shorter and you have more leeway as far as, like if they have it kind of by subject. So, okay, I'm interested in this, but I'm maybe not interested in that part. You know what I mean?
Well, you would like Dr. Lorraine Stryker because she's very to the point and it's, specific subjects for every episode. And she does it quickly and she just, and she even goes into the nuances as well, which I'm really into.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's really important too, to have a variety of different voices too. Like, don't you find if you're listening to podcasts, if you have to like the voice, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to want to listen to it. Turn it off or try something else, even if the information is good. I've been doing podcasts. I've been guesting on podcasts in the last little while, just trying to get interest and get the word out there and get the experience. And I was really surprised that when I put out my, you call it like a bid where you say, hey, I'm interested in being a guest and I'm doing this stuff. And so I want to talk about perimenopause and menopause, that they didn't want to hear a sample of my voice. I thought that was weird. Like, not only, would you want to know that I know something about a topic, but that I would be nice to listen to or have experience being interviewed. But no, it wasn't super important, just that I was available and willing to talk on the subject, which is apparently, it's good that we have so many different sources because not everybody wants to talk about it, which could be part of the denial, or I don't know, it's a painful subject and it's kind of embarrassing, if you're the one having to share that you went through this or that issue.
I can't talk about it like with my friends. I mean, I somewhat went on to the subject of brain fog and that I was kind of woozy, and the subject was closed like immediately. They avoided it like I had said nothing. So,
and that's, I mean, I kind of get it. Okay, you're not ready to talk about that. My friends too, hey? Well, what my friends kept saying was, I'm too young.
Yeah.
And it's not perimenopause because my doctor didn't say perimenopause. And they don't, for some reason. They just slap an IUD in there and they give you an antidepressant and send you on your way. But they are treating you. That is the treatment for perimenopause.
Yeah.
They're not telling you because maybe they don't want women to get upset. Or, what do you guys think that could be about?
Well, when it comes to the doctors, you mean?
Like, why don't they tell you, okay, this is perimenopause. It's a natural part of life and you can expect, these are the things I want you to come back for, right? Like heart palpitations. Like, why aren't they warning us?
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know about it. They're not trained.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They don't know.
They don't know, which puts us in the position of educating the doctors.
Yeah.
Like I asked for, how do you call this here? Like a total checkup.
Yeah, earflow checkup.
He said, what do you want that? I said, because I'm in menopause and I want to know if everything is okay. And he said, why? Is there everything, what is going wrong?
Yeah.
I said, nothing special, but I want to know if everything is okay. And he said, okay, what do you want? So I said, I want a blood test. Okay, what do you want in your blood test? I said, what? Am I the doctor?
My God. Yeah. And how is that, like when women are like, oh, I hate my doctor, is terrible. And like, how are you supposed to have any confidence at that point in your doctor?
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you, that's one of the reasons why I like that comprehensive symptoms list, because if you fill out the list and you take it to the doctor and they see, I'm having heart palpitations often, I'm waking up in the middle of the night often, I am easily startled often, there are illnesses and chronic disease that they can rule out that they should be looking for. But for some reason, when you go in and you say those things, they don't necessarily thoroughly test you. Like, one of the clients I had was having horrible vaginal pain. Like, she thought she was dying. And I was like, you probably just need a vaginal treatment. Probably just need vaginal estrogen. And she didn't really believe me. And so she went to her family doctor and he diagnosed her with something else. So she contacted me and said, well, I have a diagnosis now, so that's fine. I can just call it quits. And I said, no, you don't want that one. Like, what he had diagnosed her with was much worse than having vaginal dryness, right? Or discomfort from lack of estrogen. So she went to see the nurse practitioner and sure enough, that was confirmed. No, it's not this other thing. It is from lack of estrogen. And she started treating with Vagifem and, there you go. Like problem solved, you guys, 6 months later, problem solved. So stories like that just make me think, what the hell? This woman, she's self-employed. She works full time. How is she supposed to function? She said she couldn't put on pants. And the doctor's just going to leave you like that? Like, here.
Yeah, that's the saddest part of all is they don't push on. They just stop and that's it. I mean, that's not normal.
No. When I suffered from my hip like last year, I did the CT scan, I did MRI, everything. It took me 6 months to have everything done. And they said, oh, but you have nothing. I said, okay, but I'm suffering. So what am I doing? Oh, she said, oh, just wait. It's gonna go away. Just wait.
Oh my
Yeah, sure.
God.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah. And then it doesn't, no wonder we feel kind of crazy and abandoned. Like
Yeah.
that was one of the things that came up recently is, you have these symptoms. You've never had heart palpitations before, for example, right? And those are really scary. So you go to the doctor and they check and the blood pressure is fine and they're not hearing anything suspicious with the heart. So they think that it's fine and they don't feel that it's warranted to do any further testing because your cholesterol came back normal last time and all of these other checks look good. And they say, okay, you're fine. Go on and see you later. Come back in 6 months or whatever for your checkup. And the, woman will leave the office and then just sit in the car and cry. Because now not only is she still having heart palpitations, but she's kind of been told she's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that it's on purpose gaslighting. I think they mean to be reassuring. I've scanned you. I've checked you for disease and the culprits that we would usually expect to see that are problematic are not here. Therefore, you're fine. But for a woman who's like never had a problem sleeping and suddenly she can't sleep through the night, that's not fine.
Mm-hmm.
How is she supposed to go to work the next day and the next day and the next day? Because it's not just one night that you have trouble sleeping. It can go on and on and on. For me, it flipped. So I was having bad sleeps 5 nights a week. So more bad sleeps than good sleeps. And it doesn't take you very long to feel like you're a total nut bar under those circumstances. And I had to set some pretty firm boundaries with my husband and just clarify, so for him, what I've learned is he doesn't really understand until I can put it into context of something he's going through. So the next time he had a bad night's sleep, I was having trouble functioning. I said, this is what I go through 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
This is kind of my normal state is to be kind of like, foggy and out of it and just barely getting through and can't wait to get to bed and then waking up in the middle of the night again, thinking like, what is wrong? And that was for him like, oh, you're like this a lot. Okay, well, I need to make sure that if you need to sleep in, that I leave you alone to sleep in because I work a lot in the afternoons and evenings and teach a lot of music lessons. So I usually don't have to get up in the morning. So let me sleep. If I'm able to sleep, leave me alone. And he does now. Yeah. But with some of the things I've tried, like the holy basil really worked so well. And the magnesium and all the mindfulness, I don't wake up. And if I do, I know what to do and I go back to sleep. But it took me a long time and trial and error to figure that out. And I kind of had to figure it out on my own. And we shouldn't be feeling that way. I don't think that it's right. When we're young women and we're going through our, puberty and we start to feel crazy because the body changes and you go to the doctor, they'll look at you and they'll say, no, that's buds. You're not having breast lumps. You haven't just developed 2 lumps. They're going to turn into breasts and then, oh yeah, okay, that's weird, but all right, I'm growing breasts. And yet we don't have that same, why don't we have, you guys have probably seen those little pamphlets at the doctor's office where they have if you have a bladder infection or the common stuff, the migraine headaches and they have these little handouts and it's just a really basic information, but it has some really good stuff that helps you and it helps you feel less crazy. I don't know why they don't have one for perimenopause. Because that's the one where women are really suffering. Because if your period stops, then you go, okay, this could be what's happening. But for me, my period was perfect, normal, bang on. And I started having all these other symptoms. So it took me a long time to figure out, oh, that's what's happening.
What did you think you had originally, Jessica? I mean, you're the one that started this group out of not having any answers. I mean, if your period was regular, what did you think you were going through? I had no clue what I was going through. I just thought I was getting old.
Yeah, I had good doctors that were looking for perimenopause, but they didn't say perimenopause until I said, is it perimenopause? My family doctor said, no, because your periods are perfectly normal and that's how we can tell. But I have a functional medicine doctor and she said, oh, I've seen that before. You just have really strong estrogen. Your estrogen, you have a lot of estrogen, so your periods will stay normal longer. And you can still also have all these other symptoms start cropping up. And that's when I had breast lumps. I had 2 different breast lumps that came up. And now I'm wondering if that was part of the estrogen dominance, that no one ever talked to me about it. They just, thank goodness they were found and they were removed and they were both benign cysts and there was nothing wrong. But it would have been great to know that had something to do with estrogen, because now I know there's things that you can do about how you're eating and like using plastics and making sure that you're getting enough water and things that it wasn't even on my radar. They just told me, oh, some women get more breast lumps. But if you look at it, a lot of the time, it's us gals that have estrogen dominance that grow the breast lumps. So it might be the same. And then I started talking to my gals, my girlfriends, about perimenopause, and they did not want to talk about it. They said, nope. They had all the symptoms too, but they were like, that's not what's happening for me. It has nothing to do with that. And, so I went, well, I got to do something about this, right? Like there's got to be other people that want to talk about it. I can't be the only one. And so I started the group, and, we got to 100 people within like a couple of months without even trying, just from ladies inviting their friends. It just grew so quickly because there is that need. And I think women are going online and finding out that they're in perimenopause, or it could be perimenopause pretty easily. But then there's no idea of what do I do now? Right? And that's the problem.
I didn't even know perimenopause was a thing. I thought you just had menopause.
That's what I was expecting. I was expecting I would get to somewhere around 50 and my periods would just stop. I had no idea that migraine headaches could suddenly become a thing, and the dryness, like my eyes being really dry, or the dry mouth. I don't know if you guys have that, like the metallic taste in your mouth, or the even painful burning.
Yeah, burning, yeah. Mm-hmm. And my eyes are dry.
Yeah, my eyes started to dry out. And when I went to see my eye doctor, because I also developed some migraines, so I went to check with her. And she said, it's not unusual, but if you start treating the dry eye now, like get a natural tears and just use it every day, you'll prevent it from becoming a problem down the road. Because it's like everything else, right? The sooner you treat your eczema, the sooner it gets better.
I too. Sometimes.
Oh, you're cutting out there. Do you want to say that again?
Frozen.
Oh, you're frozen. Let it go. Let it go. Yeah, I don't like that they seem to, the dismissive attitude of your symptoms aren't life-threatening means that you are left with this idea that you just have to suffer through it. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is really wrong. They wouldn't say that to a young mom. Why are they saying that to a woman? I don't know about you guys, but like I take care of my dad. He's 92. I have grown children, but when they need me now. And I have clients and a husband and friends. Like I have people that are counting on me. And I don't want to be a zombie in my life and feeling sick all the time. And I said to my husband the other day, like the lady that was bleeding out, I don't know if you guys saw that. She was bleeding through her diaper in a Walmart parking lot and posted on the group. And I said, can you imagine them leaving a man like that, with his penis kind of falling off? Like it would never happen. Someone would be figuring out what was going on and helping him, like right now.
For sure. Yeah. But can you imagine? I mean, all us women are just, not just us, but the next generation, the ones who are in their 30s right now and who aren't in perimenopause or menopause, they're all going to be in menopause like all at the same time. And it's going to get ugly. I mean, women not being treated, eventually we're standing up for ourselves, and the next generation is standing up for themselves even more. I have a feeling we're paving the way, and the next gang is going to really, thankfully, have better answers than we do.
Yeah, I think so.
And no qualms about saying this is wrong, right?
No, they don't.
Standing up for it.
Yeah.
And I think the solution comes from the bottom up, because we're the ones, like, we need to talk to each other about all this. We need to educate ourselves. And then we have to go to our doctors and say, this is what I think is happening with me. This is what I've tried, blah, blah, blah. Like, we have to demand what we need. Mm-hmm. And we have to demand that they find that information, that they get educated. Because if they have like 10 women a day that come and see them and demand, help, and, saying, I think it's perimenopause, they're going to have to like get educated on it, because they're going to be frustrated from not being able to help their patients. So it comes from us first, I feel.
I think so too. Like when you listen to the nurse talking, and she's going through, the nurse practitioner on Monday, and she's going through all these different scenarios and specific medications, it made me think, this is not rocket science. They kind of get you in and they start you with the lowest dose, and then they see what happens, and they leave you for that 2 or 3 months to see how you balance out. And then if it's not enough, they add more. Like, it doesn't seem any different than using an antidepressant or an anti-inflammatory, or a lot of the medications that they use all the time, or the birth control pill. That was the one that really got me when I started thinking about it. Well, they wouldn't hesitate to slap an IUD in me, but they don't want to treat my hormones. So I think there is going to be a lot more of insisting. And, I put it more like you're going to go back and have a negotiation. It's a dance with your doctor. It's a partnership. But if every time something new or worsening comes up, you go back and see the doctor, you're developing that case study rapport, kind of like a lawyer, where you build the case. And it becomes less deniable, because they can see, okay, you came back, you were here 6 weeks ago and you had trouble sleeping. You still have trouble sleeping, but now you're also having, painful gums, or, like whatever other symptom has come up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that builds this kind of, foundation of what you've been living, instead of what, unfortunately, I think a lot of us do, is such a pain in the butt to get a doctor's appointment and go to the doctor that we won't unless we're bleeding through a diaper. Mm-hmm. Which is, at that point, you've left it too far. And I did do a consult with her, but she didn't want to do the traditional, the traditional doctoring. And you guys have to admit, it's invasive, right? They're going to go inside the uterus and they're going to pull stuff out, or they're going to pull out the uterus itself. This is very serious medical intervention. But at the same time, how long do you leave yourself? Do you wait till you're anemic and really can't function? Like at a certain point.
But even if she doesn't want to now, eventually her body will shut down. I mean, you can't bleed like that forever. Eventually she'll have to get the help, whether she wants to or not.
Yeah. And a lot of the time I'll say to women that are really reluctant about getting treatment, like, what would you say to your daughter if your daughter came home and said that to you? Wouldn't you be taking her to the hospital? Wouldn't you be taking her back to the family doctor and insisting? Wouldn't you be driving an hour out of your way to get her in to see a gynecologist to find out why she's bleeding like that? You certainly wouldn't be like, well, here's another diaper. You'd be, come on, hon, let's go. And we need to treat ourselves a little bit like we're our own mom, and make sure that we get that care that we need. And, insist, but in a gentle, loving way. Like, I always try to connect with the doctors based on why they became a doctor. And I'll ask them. And they kind of remind them why they became a doctor. And then go from there. And I've been extremely fortunate. But I'm saying, there's no way I would have left myself bleeding out like that. I was lucky. I had very painful periods because of the endometriosis, but they were never abnormally heavy. So I didn't have that. I can't even imagine. I would have been just terrified.